solid episode of NXT this week, but I am absolutely crushed by the Great American Bash card. And to be quite honest, it's very, very sad because the tickets for Great American Bash just are not moving. And neither is the card. The card is not giving any motion. So, of course, the tickets are kind of slow. We're going to talk about that, and then we're going to get into the show. So, according to WrestleTix, we're going to look at WrestleTix real quick, because I think this says a lot about where NXT is. So, about 3 days ago, which would be around the 27th or 28th of June, the Great American Bash had only sold 598 tickets in Center Stage Theater in Atlanta. The setup was for 772. They only sold 598 tickets. Now, that's a lot of the building. You know, I mean, they'll probably sell it out, but the cheapest ticket is like $200. When you take into account the card that they have set up after this episode of NXT, less than 1,000 people coming to the show seems right. It seems right because they're not putting their best foot forward on this show. I mean, let's just start with the closing segment, which was Jordynne Grace and Jacy Jayne had a promo segment. For starters, Jordynne Grace is not really a strong promo. This was not her strength when she was in TNA. This is something that she should be in NXT to work on, but for some odd reason, they're not making her do this a lot. But she said she questions whether she's even good enough to be here. And she said she had never told anybody that she was born to be a WWE superstar, but she became somebody that WWE couldn't ignore and plans to win the title. So Jacy Jayne interrupted, said that Jordynne Grace can bench more than she can, but Jordynne Grace can't carry this brand. And I like that turn of phrase. That was almost like a rapper thought of that. Then she says that both Jordynne Grace and Mariah May, because I refuse to use the name Blake Monroe, will be reminded of where they stand and that Jacy Jayne's at the top of her game. Jordynne Grace was talking about not surprising anybody when she beats Jacy Jayne, so Jacy Jayne and company decided to jump Jordynne Grace. So Mariah May makes her big return after this, and they fight off Fatal Influence 3-on-2. After this, complete dipshit Ava shows up to make a tag team match for the Great American Bash. It will be Jordynne Grace and Mariah May versus Fallon Henley and Jacy Jayne. Now, I don't see how this is a PLE quality tag team match. This feels like you could do it next week on TV. That's what it feels like now. Yes, this is Mariah May's in-ring debut for NXT. Well, her TV debut. She wrestled on the house shows. And she announced that there was about 750 people at an NXT house show that she worked at, which is around the same amount of people that will show up for a Great American Bash, or what it seems like. It might get around the same amount of people. So, I get it, but I don't get it. I think here's the issue of booking things too far ahead of time. Now you have told us that Jacy Jayne and Jordynne Grace are not going to have their match until Evolution. So that means between now and Evolution, they have to do this stuff, which is just filler stuff. Okay? Now, what could happen? I thought maybe Jacy Jayne would lose the belt before then. I thought maybe they would have the singles match between Mariah May and Jacy Jayne before then. But it's not looking like that's going to happen at this point in time. So how are they planning to make this last? Because I think Evolution is later in July. It's like late July. I forget what week it is. It's like 2 weeks after Great American Bash, I think. This is not a strong match. You know, in terms of women's talent, it's not a strong match. And this, I think, the only women's match that's announced so far. There might be another women's match announced for that show. But I'm not sure if it was announced for that show or if it was just announced that it will happen at some point. But this seems like a weak match to have. And even if the match turns out to be fine, which I'm pretty sure in the ring it'll be fine, the fact that there's not enough heat on this story, the fact that the big money match is still a ways away, why should anybody pay to see this match? Just because you want to see Mariah May in the ring? I don't think so. I don't think so. It doesn't sound like a good idea to me. So that's one weak match on the card. Let's talk about this other thing that they announced, which was the main event of the show. Yoshi-Iki Inamura defeated Jasper Troy. I keep wanting to call this man Pastor Troy so badly. He need to change his goddamn name. All right? I can't believe a big, gigantic man named Jasper. Now, not only can I not believe that this big, gigantic man is named Jasper, I also can't believe he lost to this fat, dumpy Japanese E-Honda guy. This guy literally was doing E-Honda 1,000 palm strikes in the corner. It's ridiculous. He's terrible. And now this guy is going to wrestle Obafemi at the Great American Bash. Yoshi-Iki Inamura. This is an incredibly weak contest. This is a TV match. Why on earth would you... Look, I get it. The men's division is weak. You need some talent there. You want to try to make something out of nothing. You're trying to polish some kind of turd. You got plenty of guys on the show that you could, if you actually wanted to dig in, look into what they can do. They moved Idris Inoue. They moved him to Evolve. He was a talented guy. He'd been in NXT forever. He never got a chance to be a singles act. Now he's working singles, but he's got pushed to Evolve. He is better than this fucking guy. This Inamura dude is not working. I know that there's probably some subsection of the internet that likes this guy, but no. The Great American Bash. American Bash, not fat, dumpy Tomohiro Ishii 2.0 Bash. Why would you book this, Sean? Are they drugging you? Blink twice if you're being held hostage. I can't think of anybody who would do this. Look, Jasper Troy is a good prospect. I'm actually not that surprised that he lost. He is fairly new. This is only his fourth match or something like that. I probably wouldn't have put him in this match in order to lose. But I guess they wanted to use his size. But he now has not won a match of any sort of consequence. So now what do you do with this guy? Now you have to take him away and repackage him, which they should have done after he lost the first time. But now he's got to go bye-bye. But they're not done because he got attacked by Javon Evans after this. So apparently he still has to do a job for Javon Evans now because he beat Javon Evans up a couple of weeks ago. Again, less than 1,000 people are planned for this show at the Great American Bash. And your top two champions, one of them is in a tag team match, and the other is wrestling Yoshi-Iki Inamura. This is something I would expect Tony Khan to do. All right? Again, I love NXT, but this is not a good idea. This is a mistake. All right? This is absolute foolishness. Now let's talk about the other match that I think might be for the Great American Bash. So Tatum Paxley and Izzy Dame had a tag team match against Zarya and Sol Ruka. Now this match was actually quite good. A lot of chemistry between both teams. Paxley and Izzy Dame, this is the first time they've ever teamed together, and yet they had tag team moves, and they were doing pretty good teamwork. I'm like, wow, that's interesting. But of course, Zarya and Sol Ruka have been around for a while. So the big finish comes with Zarya going for a spear, but Tatum Paxley took Izzy Dame. She tackled her. And so Zarya ended up spearing Sol Ruka, which allowed Izzy Dame to get the Sky High Slam on Sol Ruka and win the match. So Izzy Dame pinned Sol Ruka and now will be wrestling for the Women's North American title. Now, I don't know if that's Great American Bash or if that's going to be on TV. It's a solid enough match for Great American Bash. I will say that. And it looks like one of these two teams could represent NXT in Evolution, because you need an NXT team for the Evolution show. So one of these two teams would be a pretty good representative. But Izzy Dame getting a singles push, I'm cool with it. The thing is, what happened afterwards? Okay. So what happened afterwards is Nico Vance, the big dude that hangs out with Shawn Spears, he lifts Tatum Paxley up on his shoulders like she's a conquering hero. They go backstage, and Tatum Paxley is getting all of this love and appreciation for what she did to help Izzy Dame win. And then Hank and Tank show up, and they're fuming about something. I don't even remember what they're mad about. But Tatum Paxley essentially challenged Hank and Tank on behalf of Nico Vance and Shawn Spears. And of course they agreed, but their tag team matches next week. So we're not going to get Shawn Spears at the Great American Bash, which is good. That's a good move. Now, unfortunately, because I've kind of warmed up to Hank and Tank, it looks like those tag team titles are probably going to end up going to Shawn Spears and that big guy. So unless they probably do one of the gimmicks where Bull Buchanan's son, whose name I forgot already, shows up, and he's been around for like 4 years, and I forgot his name. Brooks Jensen. When he shows up and cost them the match, which might be the case. But it looks like Hank and Tank are going to be coughing up the tag team titles to these guys, because they're going to start trying to do something with the culling, I guess. But if Sol Ruka versus Izzy Dame is going to be on Great American Bash, I like that idea because Sol Ruka is a spectacular performer. She's not a great pro wrestler because she doesn't know how to make her stuff look like a struggle or a fight yet. But she is a very athletic young lady, and she'll have to put the rest of that stuff together. As of right now, she's very young buckish, which how she performs. But if this match ends up on the pay-per-view, then it's a good idea, I think. So most of the other talent are not really featured that heavily when it comes to the Great American Bash. They are teasing, however, another match between Ricky Starks and Ethan Page. So backstage, they had the big meeting in Ava's office where Ethan Page essentially challenged Ricky Starks that he can get his rematch if he runs the gauntlet of the Vanity Project, which is all of these Evolve guys that he started hanging around with. If he beats all of them, then he could pick the stipulation for his North American title match, which I'm going to assume is going to be at the Great American Bash, because the Vanity Project gauntlet is next week. So the Vanity Project guys, there's 3 of them, but none of them look like they're 200 pounds. Now, Ricky Starks doesn't look like he's 200 pounds either, but he's got a lot more experience than these guys. One of them absolutely looks like Trunks from Dragon Ball, Goodwill Hunting. I think his name is Brad Baylor. He actually has, like, I saw him on Reality of Wrestling, and let me tell you, he is such a he's such a shitty kid. I like him. Brad, I think his name is Brad Taylor or Brad Baylor or something like that. He's a good heel. He comes across like a prep school guy. Reminds me a lot of, the Chris Nowitzkis, the Mean Street Posse kind of guys. Like he could really work that kind of gimmick, where if you gave him like a shithead frat boy gimmick, it might work out just fine. I like that guy. The rest of these guys, I don't really know them from Adam. I couldn't pick them out of a lineup, but that guy stands out. And Ricochet, he's going to beat all of these guys, apparently. And then he's going to hopefully finish this business with Ricky Starks. And then maybe, if this match, Ricky Starks versus Ethan Page, ends up at the Great American Bash, it'll actually be worth it. Because if they do some kind of stipulation, and that stipulation is major, it's like a really good stipulation, then it might be a strong enough show to warrant being outside of the Performance Center. Because right now, the show doesn't even warrant being outside of the Performance Center. Now, they're not just building up Great American Bash. They're also doing a lot of hype for TNA Slammiversary. Now, TNA Slammiversary show it's actually doing strong numbers. They've already distributed 3,000 tickets, and the show is on the 20th. So TNA is doing strong, despite the fact that I think their TV has been kind of weak. Even though I do like the idea of Killer Kelly versus Masha Slamovich, I love that idea. But this triple threat that they are building here with Mike Santana, Joe Hendry, and Trick Williams, not my favorite. But they're doing a significant amount of work on that match on NXT. They had Joe Hendry defeat Wes Lee, which was a solid match. You know, I know that the internet hates Joe Hendry because they think he's a meme guy, and he is. But Wesley did a really good job with him here. Didn't make him look bad at all. He hit all of his stuff. The match was probably a little too long. Joe Hendry managed to win with a little bit of help from Mike Santana, as Santana took out TNT as they were distracting the referee. Afterwards, we got a promo segment between the two of these guys where they both agreed to handle, the high rise and, leave Trick Williams by himself so that they could both have their quest to take the title from him. And next week is these two versus the two Tyreek and Tyrone, or whatever their names are, that hang around with Wesley next week on NXT. So TNA is actually pretty strong. They just got Cedric Alexander. They brought him in. And, they're putting the shows up on YouTube apparently, which is smart. It's a lot better than it being on Access. So what they're doing is actually pretty good. And because Slammiversary did 3,000 tickets while the Great American Bash barely is doing 1,000, it doesn't make TNA look like the little brother in this relationship at this point. It looks like WWE is genuinely helping them. At this point, they might as well book Joe Hendry and Mike Santana to be on Great American Bash in some way in order to try to boost NXT's business. They could use it at this point. All right, let's just go through the rest of NXT. So Luca Crucifino confronted Tony D'Angelo in the ring. Luca says that he never once challenged Tony D'Angelo's loyalty, despite the fact that he quit college with 1 year left of eligibility to chase this dream, and because Tony D'Angelo wanted him to. And then Stax came out carrying the Heritage Cup, which I forgot he even won because I forgot that cup existed. He then got in the ring and thanked Luca Crucifino for the big win last week. And then Luca Crucifino punched Tony D'Angelo in the face. Everybody thought, oh shit, he turned on Tony D'Angelo, and then he punched Stax in the face too, and said that his loyalty is to himself. So the family is broken up completely now, and everybody's going their own way. That's interesting. I thought it'd have been more fun for Luca to join Stax, but okay, he's going to go his own way. They've been teasing sending him to Evolve. That's probably not a good idea, considering now they got to do something. But it seems almost like the crowd was turning on Tony because Tony's been so paranoid and, accusatory towards Luca Crucifino that sometimes people might feel bad for him. He's got he almost had more heat than Stax from, the way he was talking to Luca. But the D'Angelo family is, I'm not sure which direction this thing is going in now, but I'm okay with it. I mean, let's just see where it goes. I guess we'll get the big answer when Rizzo returns, and we'll see what side she ends up on, and whether Tony D'Angelo gets real paranoid about her as well. Next, Miles Bourne defeated Lexis King. This is a very good showcase for Miles Bourne. And Miles Bourne in this match basically aped and traced all of Randy Orton's work. His movements, his drop kick, some of his moves. I was like, wait a second. Okay, look, we know when we've been started calling you Baby Randy. I get it. Don't buy into it. Like, I don't want to think of Randy Orton while you're in the ring. And almost every other move this guy did, even some of his body movements, the way he slid around on the mat and stuff, reminded me so much of Randy Orton. Randy Orton is still wrestling. All right? You don't ape somebody's whole style while they're still wrestling. Don't do it. And why be second best at anything? I mean, he is moving better than Randy, but that's because Randy is 45, 46 or something like that. And this kid is, under 30. But I don't want to be reminded of Randy Orton while you're in the ring. Other than this, Miles Bourne's finisher is now the zigzag, which, okay, it's fine. He looked good. He looked really good. Miles Bourne looked great here. Lexus King, oh well, he was what he was. Dark State is talking about stuff again. They talking very tough for guys who haven't done anything in weeks and weeks and weeks. Maybe we ought to just forget this whole Dark State thing happened. Maybe the Dark State is the friends we made along the way. Next, Laney Reed defeated Thea Hale, which I did not understand. I'm not sure what they're trying to get. Look, for that, this match was good. Laney Reed is actually not bad. She's got good timing. She knows how to do the moves. She's selling pretty well. She's kind of nondescript in terms of personality, but then again, she just got brought up from Evolve to NXT, so she's got some stuff to work on there. I'm just surprised that Thea Hale would lose this match because Thea Hale should be leaps and bounds above Laney Reed. But this match was good because I like both of these girls. I thought they both worked very well. Thea Hale actually beat Nikita Lyons on WWE Speed, a match that I actually watched because I could not wait for Nikita Lyons to actually... I want to see how she was going to look with that 3-minute time limit. And she actually didn't look bad. I know she made one mistake where, they did like a neck breaker and she bumped in the wrong direction. And everybody retweeted that, and because they hate her, they try to magnify every mistake she makes. It's like, nobody gives a shit, bro. People have been doing that stuff a lot. People take bumps in the wrong position literally all the time. But Thea Hale should be leaps and bounds higher than Laney Reed. Thea Hale should be in one of the top contenders for the women's title. Using her to put over Laney Reed is fine right now because you haven't put a lot of stock behind Thea Hale. But there needs to be some stock behind Thea Hale. She's legit. She's pretty good. I will say this. In watching Laney Reed versus Thea Hale, I'm disgusted at how similar their gear was. They both were wearing fishnets. And I read somewhere that one of the women complained that there's not enough designers, so a lot of their gear looks the same. And a lot of the Diva stands have mentioned that there's a lot of straps and fishnets and stuff like this. And they said, well, it's basically one person making all the gear for the girls. That needs to change. Like, these characters need to look more individualized. Laney Reed should not be dressing the same as Thea Hale. For starters, why is Thea Hale wearing fishnets anyway? Like, that's not even got anything to do with her character. Which I guess it does, because she wants to be a grown-ass woman. But, I don't know. I don't like the idea of Thea Hale wearing fishnets. It seems kind of excessive to me. Very excessive, actually. But hopefully they turn things around, both in individualizing the women in terms of their look, also in getting better booking for Thea Hale. She is a firecracker. She could be a future star, especially as a babyface. I don't see why she's in this position. It sucks. Tavon Heights wants the same deal that Miles Bourne got to get out of the No Quarter Cash crew. Charlie Dempsey accepts that agreement on the stipulation that if he wins, then Tavon Heights is in No Quarter Cash crew permanently. Now that ought to be an interesting gimmick because No Quarter Cash crew, they've been taking the L's pretty casually lately. So it seems like a time where Ranowski, or whatever her name is, and Charlie Dempsey would actually cheat to keep Tavon Heights in the group. But I don't think they're going to do it. I don't think they have the spine to do that. I don't think they have the spine to pull it off. It seems like the time to do that, but it doesn't like they have the guts to do it. Speaking of guts, Andre Chase apologized to his new recruits for being verbally abusive to them. They've neutered the character. The character is a eunuch. Now, I don't understand what the point of Andre Chase is anymore. He can't be fun and yell at the students, which is the whole fun of Chase U. So, ho hum, who cares about this? Look, NXT is always a fun show to watch, and there was a lot of stuff to get into here. Joe Hendry versus Wesley was good. Laney Reed versus Thea Hill was good. The women's tag team match was very good. The issue here has been the decisions when it comes to pushing talent. It has been extremely problematic that you have guys that they just will not use. Tavion Heights not being higher up on the card, Thea Hill not being higher up on the card. I mean, the women's division is clogged. I get why you would keep Thea Hill in that position, or Jada Parker wouldn't be featured. Something like that. Lola Vice is going to be wrestling in Triple Mania. She's going to be wrestling in a mixed tag team match. It's going to be Lola Vice and Santino versus Mr. Iguana and La Hydra. Now, let me tell you about La Hydra. For starters, she's the woman that Stephanie Vaquer has a problem with. But she has ass just... I said this is the Mark Henry and Big Show of ass spots. Like, you need to reinforce the ring right now because it might collapse. If their asses run into each other, it's gonna knock over mountains like some Dragon Ball shit. Like, there are some very thick women gonna be in that match, and you got my attention. Everybody else is talking about, iguana puppet versus lizard puppet. Yeah, Cobra versus Iguana. Yeah. But you got two very, very, very thick women in this match. Okay? There's about to be some sparks flying, and it's going to sound like a round of applause in that ring. All right? I'm very interested in that. But that's why she's not featured. She's probably going to be working more for AAA. And I'm cool with that. But they certainly need to do something with the men's division because it's in dire straits. It's in a real bad position. They need to make some hard choices. Like, they probably need to send some guys who are on the lower tier of Raw and SmackDown and ship them to NXT just for a fresh run. Obafemi needs some opponents. He can't keep wrestling fat Japanese jabronis and bums like Briggs. And he doesn't have another Trick Williams to wrestle. There's no Carmelo Hayes for him to wrestle or anything like that in NXT. So you got to give him somebody. And you got to get him something. I'm pretty sure if I put some thought into it, there'd be some guy I would send to NXT. Or you could call somebody up from Evolve, which might actually help out, fill out your division a little bit. But I would like to see NXT do better. Because the show is routinely solid. The only consistent problem with the show is the weak men's division and Ava being an absolutely terrible general manager. She is awful, but she's stuck in position because her daddy is The Rock. So she's not going nowhere. You can't get rid of her. Everything else, though, is pretty damn solid. But let me know what you guys think. I'll talk to you good people later. Peace out.
Yeah. We're just gonna